Hey, and welcome back to Yogi's Garage. I've got a good one for you today. This is a continuation of my Helping Hands chapter of Yogi's Garage, where I'm opening up my garage to fellow 911 owners, and they're bringing their cars to me, and I'm taking a look at them and seeing if I can make them better, repair any issues, or in this case, get it to pass an emissions inspection. Yeah, that's right. Lewis, my friend Lewis, brought his car to me because he took it to two other independent shops here in Houston, and one of them kept it for at least 2 weeks, and neither of them could figure out the issue with why the check engine light was coming on and complaining about the secondary air injection. So Lewis brought it to me. I promised him that I would get it working, and that's what this video is about. So with that, let's fix it. All right, we have a special car for Yogi's Garage this week. We are dealing with a 2002 Porsche 911 Turbo that is having trouble passing emissions. And boy, do I know all about that. I had trouble with my Turbo and my Carrera passing emissions. So it's no surprise to me that he's having trouble. So what I want to do is I want to scan this car, and then I want to figure out what the codes are and see if we can get it to pass emissions. All right. And what I'm going to be using for this is going to be something really simple. And that's just going to be, I'm going to be using my blue driver to see if I can test it and see what I see. And Lewis's car is really nice. It's an all black interior, and it has some pretty nice options. It's got a great looking radio. I wish my radio was this model. I may have to figure out where to get one of those for Pepper. The headliner is an Alcantara, which is really cool. I don't get to see any of this stuff in a convertible for what it is, but the condition of this car is in great shape. All right, let's plug in my OBD and talk to it. So the story I got from Lewis is that they reset the check engine light because they were unable to resolve the issue, but Lewis said after a few minutes of driving, it should just pop right back up. Blue Driver has a very useful feature called a smog test, and what you see here is basically it running through a test of all of your emission components to see if they're in a ready state so that your car will pass emissions. When you take it to a station where they do these kinds of tests, that's what they look for, is to see if any of these are not ready. And in the state of Texas, you're only allowed one to be not ready. So this car will not pass. For those of you who don't know or are unsure what a secondary air system does, when the SAI, or secondary air injection, injects air into the exhaust, it introduces extra oxygen into the exhaust gases. This helps burn off any unburnt fuel in the exhaust, making the engine run lean temporarily, more air, less fuel in the mix. The engine's control system recognizes this extra oxygen and compensates by adding more fuel, which creates a rich condition, more fuel, less air, to maintain the balance. This process helps warm up the catalytic converters faster and burn off pollutants. So to clarify, the SAI initially causes a lean condition by adding air, which the engine then corrects by running richer to burn more fuel. All right, so what you saw in the video clip there was that it just looks like the car needs to go through a normal readiness check. So I get the fortune of driving this car around for a little bit to see if I can get it to pass. And then if it doesn't, we can figure out where it's failing and I can work my magic. All right, let's drive it. Oh yeah. All right, so now we're getting somewhere, right? I'm doing my normal OBD2 emissions test, or just getting the engine to cycle so that you'll get ready to pass emissions. And this is where we're at. It's not gonna pass emissions because of that. So I'm gonna take the car home and we're gonna run it through the scanner and figure out what's wrong with it. All right, we're making progress. And for those of you who may not know, this is the Durametric diagnostics tool. And I have the enthusiast version, which gives me 3 VIN numbers. So it's a good thing that I have friends here in Houston that can give me this, the professional version. This is basically the unlimited VIN numbers. Bruce, who was here last week so that I could fix his wheel bearing issue, was nice enough to leave this here with me so I could work on the Dark Knight here and figure out if this Durametric can help us diagnose the issues with the Dark Knight. Let's do it. Okay, we're gonna take all of this stuff and go squeeze ourselves into the driver's side of this beautiful car. Believe it or not, his spoiler still works, even though it has 70,000 miles, but I would expect that thing to fail at any moment. Sorry, Lewis. And what I'm hoping to accomplish here is to turn on his fan to see if we can at least verify the secondary air injection. And there they are. So you got a Porsche fault code 80, secondary air system bank 1, secondary air system bank 2. All right, so my first initial gut feeling is if both banks are complaining about the fault, then it more than likely isn't a problem with anywhere on the other side of that sensor. Meaning that you don't have to dig on the intake manifold side or any of the runners, because it looks like the problem is further up before it hits the sensors. So I think we may have a leak somewhere in the tubing or in the reservoir tank. The only way you're gonna fix this issue is if you smoke test the engine, which is what we're probably gonna have to do. But I really wanna make sure that we cover our bases here and test all of the things that are associated. And there's really only one thing here. Secondary air pump here, and then the electrical switchover valve on the air pump. All right, so we're gonna start with just the air pump and see if we can hear it. Here we go. Yeah. That's not the air pump. Oh. It would help if I turn the right one on, right? A secondary air pump. Here we go. There we go. Should sound like a vacuum cleaner. So it should be that guy right there. And it sounds really good. All right, so we know it's not a hardware problem. That fan sounds really powerful. I seriously doubt that we've got a problem with the pump. What I want to test now is the switchover valve on the secondary air pump. You should hear something. It's a click. All right, let's try to hear it again. Ready? Listen. Oh, that sounds good. It worked. So, now we're gonna take it apart. Great. All right, we're inside the engine bay here now, and he's got some nice aftermarket silicone charge pipes here. Is really nice. But the layout's a little bit different than a 996. On a 996, the secondary air pump sits right here, and then the tube just kind of runs through the back, right? But here, the pump is on this side. So I got to get this thing off, I'm almost certain, to move the bracket out of the way, the mounting bracket. And then I can get at the changeover valve, as well as the power. And what I want to do is I want to smoke test this from this point, but I need to get to the tube on the other side, and then I'll smoke test it from there. But just looking this thing over, I mean, it's very possible that this whole thing is just got a few little weather cracks in it because, hey, this thing is 20 years old, man. Some of this stuff hasn't been replaced. Okay, I'm gonna get in there and take all that stuff out. And I got that collar loose now. I just gotta get this mass airflow sensor off. Clear that click, and it should just come up. There, okay. So that's out of the way. And the rest of it should just, yeah, come out. Because it's a nice, simple design, I think. Yeah, there we go. And kind of cock it out like that, so whoop, back in. All right, that's a nice little airbox, man. I get some more visuals on this side. Look at the size of that intake. Wow, I can put my hand in there. Wow. O2 sensors, something else too. It's like some kind of rev matcher tool or something. I don't know, there's some kind of power, but it's not running right. Okay, get in there. Okay, now I understand what's going on here. All right, looks like they jam in a coupler insert in there so that this fits on here nice like that.
But it looks like this is a one-way trip for this one, so I'm gonna have to swap it out with a regular with a regular hose clamp. No big deal. Okay, now that I understand, I don't think I need to take this out. But taking out the air box, as you saw, was one bolt and the collar. And look at all the room you get now. All right, back to work. All right, I think I'm just gonna bend these out like that. I could probably use a simple, you know, a pair of snips or something to get this out, but who knows, I might get lucky and just be able to loosen it this way. I think I am. Yeah, it's already coming loose. All right, see? I'm learning, man. Don't force things, just make it work. All right.
All right, I'm just making some mental notes. I may or may not use this. But one thing I wanted to point out here is the constriction here going on in this particular charge pipe. It looks like it's slightly too long, so it's causing it to kink. So I may send that over to my buddy. So things are really tight in here. The turbo intake manifold is really low profile. And the intake plenum right here that goes straight to the throttle body is a rigid metal piece. So there's a whole lot of stuff that runs from bank 1 to bank 2, right? So we gotta find a conduit or where they're running all of their stuff to the other check valve or solenoid on this side, which controls this intake. So again, we just gotta figure out the whole pathing, and then we can start digging in deeper to figure out where the fail point is. First thing I gotta do is get this out. It looks like there's several 10mm bolts that are holding it in place, as well as, of course, the collar. And this right here looks like a pressure sensor that also will have to be disconnected. And this is some kind of crankcase valve or brake booster. No idea. All right, let's go.
Okay, I think I got everything disconnected. There's a couple of 10s right here holding this part in. There is what I can only assume is a check valve tube here coming off, and then the collar, and of course the pressure sensor. So there we go. This should all just come on out. Now there's a few other vacuum lines to be careful with, and I see one already. All right. You can see it right down there. So you gotta be careful. Don't go yanking, right? You wanna take your time and get in there. Let's see if I can get a better light. Yeah, there we go. Get in there and just pop that loose. Because it's just a friction fit, right? A little barb. All right, I'm gonna take two hands and do it. So let me, there we go, okay. All right, yeah. Dude, that's cool. All right. And see, now I can see the tubing and do some more tracking. I might be able to pull the throttle body out and get even more visibility in there. But I think that might be all I need. Okay. Yes, and just as I suspected, there's the little splitter, X splitter. That's usually a culprit of where the smoke will come out if there's a leak. But let me get this throttle body out, and we'll get closer. Yeah.
Oh, look at this thing. It's so little. That is a tiny little throttle body. What is that, 74? I think so. All right, now I can see some stuff. Now this may or may not be part of the issue, but if you take a look at this hose here, it's another one that comes out of this thing and twists and comes across, and there's a huge kink, so it's restricted there. Let's get my light back in there. There, it's restricted. There may be something else we need to address while we're in here. As soon as I figure out what that is, and then this is where I'm gonna plug in right there to the smoke test, right on the plenum, and just fill the whole intake side with smoke.
3 hours later.
I think I figured out where that goes. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit so you can see that it is absolutely, positively kinked. And that is going to the secondary air pump. And it's connecting to the plenum back here, as you can see. So if it's constricted because it can't expand to fill with air, which I'm certain it can't because that is a tight fit, then that could be the problem right there. I mean, because again, both sides, bank 1 and bank 2, are complaining about incorrect pressure. I mean, that would do it, right? If you don't have pressure immediately coming into the intake, then it would throw the warning for both. So I think I may have found it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unclip it and see if I can shorten it, because that's all the issue is here. Is I believe that it is too long, and so it's making a hard 90. And if I cut off a few inches, I think I might be able to get a better angle so that it's not completely collapsed. All right, let me get that clip off. Okay. Okay, as you can see, if I can just shorten it a bit till about right here, I think it'll be a much better connection. All right, now I gotta get get some scissors or something in there to cut that where I need it. All right, let me think about it. All right, I think I got it. I cut off about 1.5 inches, and now you may not be able to see it all that well, but there is no kink there anymore. And I just did about 1 inch at a time and kept testing it. And I found the length that I need. If I ever need to cut more, if I think it's not enough, I'll just come in there and snip, snip. But I want to make sure it's perfect because I don't want to crawl back in here. All right, cool. I had to whip out my handy dandy hose clamp kit to get at it with a 90-degree clamper instead of the other one that goes head on. All right, cool. And there, all right, now you can see that it's not perfect because it really needs a 90-degree right there, but it's not constricted anymore. And when air fills that tube, it'll do the rest. Okay, I think I'm gonna button up the rest of this and take it out for a spin and see if this fixes it. All right, throttle body's backed in and torqued. Those are 8mm bolts, so you're looking at about 9 to 12 Newton meters. Hand tight is good. You don't want to over tighten those. All right, I got the connector in. Now I got to reconnect the pressure sensor and that little tiny vacuum tube and the bigger vacuum tube for this guy right here, the pressure tube. Let's do it. All right, I'm getting ready to start the car. I'm using my Blue Driver ODB2 scanning tool. I have a link for this in my affiliates section of the description of this video. I don't really need to use my Durmeasure just to check and clear codes, so I'm just gonna use that. Let's get it going and I'll catch you on the road.
And this is about when my camera decided to shit the bed. So I don't have any more footage after this, but I can tell you that it passed indeed. And you can see, and then in the next screenshot, you can see, yes, it turned green. And at that point, everything else passed. And yes, Lewis was able to take his car to get inspected. And as I mentioned in the intro to this video, he took his car to 2 different shops and neither shop could figure out this problem. He took it to Yogi's Garage and I figured it out in 3 hours. Thanks for watching Yogi's Garage. We'll see you next time.